All right, everyone. Getting you excited with some Varsity Blues action. Welcome to another episode of the Down South Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, the one, the only, Haley, and we have another guest on. We are rolling through people now. I love it. My man, some people know him as the Vice Commissioner. We'll see how that goes. I will say he did take a step in the right direction today. He was thinking about bailing on me, but he decided to tough it out, come on the show. So I'd like to introduce you to James Susie /J/Jayway Suzdak. What's going on tonight, my man?
How you doing, Haley? Glad to be here. I know there was a little bit of a possible scheduling thing. I'm glad we were able to work it out. I always here as an owner and a vice commissioner to be on the podcast, and I'm happy to be here, especially after I was called out by a previous owner last podcast.
Yeah. Speaking of the previous owner, I did lose the bet between us. I owe Mr. Daly a bottle of Jameson, so the next time I see him, probably next draft, I will have to remember that. But I'm happy you decided to come on after he clearly called you out. Immediately the next day, you got in touch with me, said you wanted to be on. So great to have the commitment from you. And then without anything else, let's get into some of the games from last week.
Sounds good. Let's roll into it.
And we are going to start with the first victory for Right Hand of Destruction, coming with 2 minutes left in the Monday Night Football game, thanks to a rushing touchdown from Kareem Hunt. 135.22 to 130.12. I was sweating this entire weekend because I knew if I went 0-4, it was donezo for me. Now I got a little bit of light, just like the Giants do, but in the end, we're probably both going to be sitting on the sidelines in the playoffs. I was just going to say, got some good performances. Kareem Hunt, finally a good performance. Carson Wentz stepped up. Sterling Shepard, everybody expect him to have a big game. He did. And almost my saving grace, picking up Wendell Smallwood instead of throwing Theo Riddick out there. He only had 6.9 points, but I wasn't looking for much from him, so I was happy there. On the other side, you had Hopkins go off. Ridley still had another good game. Could have started Stafford, would have made it a little closer, but I still would have had the victory.
Yeah, we're actually watching that down to the wire here in the Grill A. That's where I'm live from as well. We're sitting here watching that game bit by bit, just looking to see who would pull out that victory. You had a little bit of a hill to climb that last game on Monday.
Yep.
And it was good to see you get your first win, especially against Mikey's team, who can put up big numbers if they stay healthy every week, especially going against somebody like Barkley and Hopkins, who have been just killing it, especially with the new PPR ruling. So it was a good matchup to have. Unfortunately, you guys were the winless teams going against each other, but it seems like it landed in your favor for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Mikey, he had a couple guys on suspension the first 4 weeks. Stuck it out with those guys. Unfortunately, coming 0-4 out of that, going to be a tough hole to dig himself out of. But we'll see what happens week 5. Moving on, and actually I jumped the gun. I'm drinking Miller Lights tonight. I'm assuming you're drinking the same.
Absolutely. I got a fresh one cracked right here with me.
All right. I knew it was either that or Bud Light Lime. I couldn't remember what you were going to go with.
Well, I think Kyle drank the rest of those last time he was here. So no more Bud Light Limes in the grill line.
That goddamn guy. Every time. Next game we're going to look at is my guy Tucker over Shooter Stab. Another pretty close game. My guy Tucker, great performances from Alvin Kamara, per usual. Stephon Diggs, this PPR has really helped him out this year. Hasn't really found the end zone too much, but had 10 grabs. Rivers, another solid outing. And he won with getting a nice 0 from O.J. Howard, who got injured in that game. On the other side, Shooter Stab really got hurt from Drew Brees. The Giants' defense played pretty well the first 3 quarters. He didn't get to throw a touchdown pass. David Johnson played pretty decent for him. A.J. Green. The big one's been Jared Cook. Found the end zone twice, and I've been saying it the past few weeks. He's only had 3 touchdowns in the past 3 years. So with all the injuries at tight end, this guy could be the real winner here.
Yeah, I know you've been very vocal and haven't hidden your wonderful attitude toward Jared Cook, but he really pulled out for Shooter Stab. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but this is definitely a team. And just to say forward, it's good to see for the league these close matchups. We, speaking as a co-commissioner here, we just like to see these close scores come down the wire. I know it doesn't, leave the owners to a little nervous to come Monday night, especially, but it's good to see these closer matchups. But going back to Shooter Stab, Jared Cook, but unfortunately for him, it was the Alvin Kamara show, and especially when you're facing the guy that has Alvin Kamara, even with your quarterback, there's always that threat that he's going to get that passing to Kamara for a touchdown as well. So my guy Tucker, even with the out to Fournette, later, at the start of the game, only gave him 4 points, and O.J. Howard, you can just see the depth of his lineup. So another good, solid performance for each team. But my guy Tucker, on the back of Justin Tucker, pulled this one out.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up too. I saw a nice 17.5 from him, and going forward, he's in a good situation with Yeldon on his bench. Now the next week or two, he knows Fournette will be out. He's going to pop into the lineup, and he's been very good this year so far. I know his career when he started, everybody expected him to be a little better, but he also didn't have the offensive line he has now, so he won't be Fournette-esque, but he will be more than serviceable.
Well, yeah, that's. I also know your love relationship with T.J. Yeldon, so I wouldn't be surprised if you throw a first-round draft pick trade proposal Matt's way to trade for him this week or something like that. I wouldn't be too surprised.
Speaking of trades, I've been trying for some today. Haven't worked out, but haven't seen many in the league so far this season. Interesting to see if that'll pick up over the next month or so before the deadline comes.
Yeah, it's actually been quite barren in that respect compared to previous years. Usually we get, at least one big, trade between, some top players going between teams, but not so much this year. And it might just show how, maybe the extra practice squad member or guys just being a little more conservative with injuries and that type of thing, where they're not taking too much of a risk, where they want to keep the player instead of trying to dish him out. So it's interesting to see, but going forward, that could always change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that changes with the drop of a hat. I think it also goes to there was a lot of movement before and during the draft, so that could have something to do with it as well. Moving on to the third game of last week, we had upset alert. E-Walking Dead taking down Bo Leavin' Bell 145.96 to 131.26. E-Walking Dead had Nick Chubb for 3 carries, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 33 points from Golden Tate, 20 from Tom Brady, and I mean everybody other than Keelan Cole went double digits for him. Nick Chubb, he was the only option he had to put in there, and it worked out for him. I was 100% surprised. Can't believe that. But, it's fantasy football. That'll happen. And on the other side, you had a rough game from Chris Godwin, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas. They had very pedestrian games. George Kittle, big game. Gio, another big game. Mahomes, everybody was expecting a down game. For much of the game, it was, until that fourth quarter. And the thing that hurt him is the guy I love to bring up, Corey Davis on the bench, Cooper Kupp on the bench, both over 30 points. So he easily could have had the win if he started the right players, but hindsight's 2020.
Oh, absolutely. This was a, Walking Dead. The team doesn't look. There's definitely more than meets the eye with this team just by first glance, but he was definitely in the ropes to start Chubb, and me as a Georgia graduate, even though Carlos Hyde is one of the stars of my team, I was rooting for him for sure for Chubb to get those touchdowns, but it was definitely just a hard break for Believin' Bell. I spoke with the owner while it was going on, and he seems a little too confident in his ability to overtake the Walking Dead this week. So it definitely may have called me that came back and bit him a little bit on that one. But he would have had it if he started the right guys, but those shoulda wins or coulda wins, everyone could say those at the end of the year. Definitely, we'll see how this team moves on moving forward with the announcement of Le'Veon Bell possibly returning in the next coming weeks. But, just a couple bad performances and a couple stellar performances for the Walking Dead. And you know what? The Walking Dead has been toward the bottom of the league, but they're right there at 2-2 this year so far, and it's exciting to see that from a team that usually doesn't get that production.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasant surprise. The league pretty balanced this year. No undefeated team. One team without a win, excuse me. But now he has his full roster back, so it'll be interesting to see where everybody goes from here on out, especially with bye weeks coming up affecting people. We saw that happen this past week. We'll see what happens moving forward. Next game, we got Staunch Moderates, and this is where those close games end. Takes down Silverback Nation, 154.3 to 107.96. Just a ridiculous performance from Staunch Moderates. Team really showed up and still got 0 points from Sammy Watkins, but 32 from Watson, 32 from Elliott, 27 from White, 26 from Jones, and then 14 from your defense. On the other side, you had 36 points from Luck, kind of wasted. The running backs combined for less than 5 points. Running back situation's looking a little tough for Silverback Nation right now. Kenyon Drake just not what some people were expecting. Frank Gore was getting a lot of work. Kerryon Johnson on the bench. He didn't have a great game, but he actually put points up. Jared Goff's looking good. Not a lot of depth on this team, but he had a down week overall. And for this, I owe Staunch Moderates a bottle of Jameson.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be quick to remind you about that as soon as he knows when you're going to be around. But you said it perfectly with the running back situation on Silverback Nation. They just that poor performance on running back is really going to look to be a thorn in their side moving forward, especially with the hype that Kenyon Drake had coming in out of the good year they had last year. I really think that the quarterback play each week is going to dictate if this team could put up on the board. I know Luck and Goff put up points this week, but that's going to be their biggest punching force moving forward. Especially this team's hurt with the Doug Baldwin injury as well. It's just a tough loss for them. But Staunch Moderates on the other side, they did well. I didn't expect that much, especially out of James White or any of that. But it seems like the guys really showed up. But I also want to make it known that I know this owner has made it very clear and publicly stated about his love for Dion Lewis in the backfield and just doesn't start the guy. So that's just something that as an owner of Derrick Henry on the other side. Called out a couple other owners saying that the backfield is dominated by Dion Lewis but doesn't start him. So I just want to know, I could ask that owner where he doesn't put his trust in his mouth on saying that. So, but he did pull out the win, and it was a tough break for Silverback Nation. But if they get Kerryon Johnson going, I think they could be okay to fill that running back void.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about the Tennessee backfield going forward. But even if Dion Lewis is said controlling that backfield. Only 11.1 points in a PPR league, so not like he did anything crazy. I think that offense is starting to get back into rhythm, though. They got some injured players back. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, Kerryon Johnson comes back. Then you got Joho, but Drake isn't good. John Kelly's not going to play. Jamal Williams is getting phased out, and that's it. Those are all his running backs. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting the rest of the way. And then another not close game. We mentioned it the first week. The only guy that didn't crack 100 points, and I don't think he's been below 150 cents. J-Way Bella, 179.98 to Built to the Futures, 124.18. You, my friend, you had Travis Kelce, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Melvin Gordon, Kirk Cousins, all over 20 points. Still could have been even better somehow with John Brown on the bench. Running back situation, you just seem like you're playing the right lineups right now, which is really helping you. The first week you left a couple people on the bench, and just seems like you're honed in on your lineup, especially with a couple injuries. That could be helping you out picking between some guys. On the other side, Russell Wilson just having a piss poor year. Alex Collins, James Conner, pedestrian. Todd Gurley goes over 20 points. Zach Ertz goes over 20 points. Those guys pretty much every week. Parker has a decent game. Evans, I believe I said this last week, I think he was coming back down to earth. He played a lot of the wrong guys too. He could have had Matty Ice, Tariq Cohen, Amari Cooper, Alshon Jeffrey in there. A couple of those guys would have been tough to pull the trigger on though. Alshon just coming back from injury. Cooper has just been up and down all year. So he probably made the right plays at the time. But you're on a roll right now, and I'm hoping soon enough that it gets derailed.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything different, but it's just the cards have been folded my way right now, and it definitely helps that I was voted second last on the Rate My League podcast.
Those guys are assholes. So
right now, I'm not. I'm definitely just enjoying it right now. I know these waves come up and down, but I've really just been pretty surprised by the play of my wide receivers right now. For the most part, I didn't expect to get that much production. I didn't know what Cooks was going to do, coming to a new team. A lot of question marks with Hyde going to a new team, Cousins going to a new team. So, but I definitely think, especially with Kelce, with the tight end PPR rule that we have, I've benefited on that. But just going up against Built for the Future, anytime you go against Todd Gurley or Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, you're going to be sweating a little bit. And, it definitely potential to put up big numbers. Just so happens that Kirk, the owner Kirk, has a lot of talent, and it's tough to pull the trigger, like you said, on some guys. Well, when you could have had those wins if you should have started them. So that also comes with a deep bench. You don't know who's going to put up the numbers each week, but I'm definitely riding it out as far as the point production goes, but. As you said, these things can change on the drop of a dime. So I'm hoping to keep it going and just move on.
Yeah, absolutely. The first 4 weeks of this season, it's been a new record for points scored from in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see if that trend continues for the whole year, or if that's just 4 weeks. Defenses are figuring out what everybody's doing, which is just throwing the ball a bunch and seeing if that takes anything down. It's really been, there's a lot more offenses that have 3 viable fantasy wide receivers than there has ever been. Normally, if you got 2 fantasy viable wide receivers on your NFL team, that's a good offense. You're, the Saints offense or something like that. That's what I was expecting the Rams to be like. You didn't know who was going to go off which week, but it seems like any of their top 3 guys, they're at least going to get you a floor of 10 to 12 points, and, they're going to keep going from there. But yeah, so been a high-scoring first quarter of the season. Moving on to week 5, just to go over my overall predictions for the first quarter of the season. I went 13-7, not too shabby. Had a lot of 3-2 weeks. Started off with a hard 4-1. So hopefully I'll keep that momentum going sky high for the rest of the year. Pick myself the rest of the way. Go to the championship. Yada yada yada. You get it. Same old.
Yeah, living the same old dream that you have every year, right?
Yeah, living on a prayer, baby. First matchup we're gonna go over for this week 5. We're gonna go my guy Tucker versus Bell. I'm gonna go over the bye and the injuries, and then I'm gonna have you go through the lineup and give your prediction first. So,
all right, sounds good.
So bye week for my guy Tucker, you got OJ Howard, who also did injure himself, and Fitzmagic, who I believe is going to be dropped pretty soon. On the other side, same team with the Bucks, you got Chris Godwin, and then the injury report, you got Fournette, my guy Tucker, as out, and then on the other side, you got Bell just not on a team essentially, and then Gio Bernard, Tevin Coleman, and Joe Mixon, all questionable. And let's take it to you, my friend.
All right, yeah, so I'll start out with Believing Bell. Just going down his lineup here, Mahomes, who we saw has just been on fire. I know he cooled off a little bit last week, but he's going to be going up against Jacksonville, who's going to have probably one of his tougher, matchups of his starting career right now. They've been just playing too well defensively and having that rush on the line there to get him pressure. So that'll be interesting to see. Also, the Giovanni Bernard, Joe Mixon dynamic will be interesting to see how the week goes out. But Bernard is a solid running back moving on if Mixon's not there. But what he really has to worry about is the Tevin Coleman. Obviously, he's probably, with Freeman probably coming back, what he's going to be doing, he's going to put Sony Michel in there, who had a big week last week on his bench, or, how he's going to play that one out. He's got Hill, Kupp, and Michael Thomas as 3 wide receivers, which is interesting because this owner, more than any, has been proponent of the 3 running backs, the running back in the flex position. So it's interesting to see, and I think he'll get a rebound from Michael Thomas this week as well. So and moving on to my guy Tucker, I think Rivers against Oakland, that's just going to be too juicy. It's going to be a juicy matchup for Rivers. We've got Yeldon on the bench to back up Fournette, who's been out. Kamara is going to be Kamara, and maybe we'll see some Antonio Brown action that we've all been waiting for, and especially my guy Tucker. So, what my guy Tucker really has to worry about is his tight end situation. He's been plagued by injuries. Even with OJ Howard on the bye, he did get hurt. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jordan Reed can pick up where he left off, in the sense where we all expect him to be, if he can stay healthy and be part of that game script.
Rivers with a juicy matchup. Moist in the panties matchup. So who do you got winning this game?
I'm gonna have to go with my guy Tucker on this. I think Kamara, even if Yeldon doesn't put up some big production against Kansas City, which I think he will, because Kansas City defense has kind of been where a lot of their problems have been as a team compared to their offense. But Kamara, he can score up to combined up to 2 running backs, sometimes maybe even 3, especially with the PPR. And I know Ingram's coming back, but if anything, I think he'll stay his running back with these stats. I'm going to go ahead and give the nod to my guy Tucker on this one.
Okay. So I mean, you got Mahomes going against the Jags. That's tough. Gio popped up on the injury report today. Then you got Tevin Coleman popped up on the injury report. But on top of that, Freeman got in a limited practice, so it looks like Freeman's going to play. So that could, scale back Coleman's workload, whose workload was scaled back a little last week by Ito Smith. So it'll be interesting what happens there if he goes Sonny Michel on Thursday Night Football against the Colts, who have been okay. Everybody thought they were going to be a little worse on defense. And then the other one is he's also got Corey Davis going up against the Bills. I like that matchup. I know Tyreek Hill just needs one play. I know Cooper Kupp's going up against the Seahawks, who aren't a great defense. You're going to start Michael Thomas. As much as I don't like Corey Davis for many reasons, mainly because of the asshole fantasy football prediction guys, I would start him this week. On the other side, I mean, honestly, I think you swayed my opinion. Rivers is going to have an awesome matchup. Yeldon will have a nice matchup.
Juicy matchup.
Excuse me. Cutting in there and getting nice and juicy. And, I mean, Brown's going up against the Falcons, who are atrocious. Diggs will get his catches. Reed, he's been fine. It always comes back to, will he get hurt or not? I'm going to tell you, I had Bell written down. I'm flipping over to my guy Tucker here, though. I like the matchups.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, like they all have been, especially with the points in the PPR. But with Justin Tucker leading the reins and holding the backbone of his team, it's hard to bet against them even.
Hey, kickers are people too. That's all we know. Moving on to the second matchup of the week, we got Staunch Moderates versus E-Walking Dead. E-Walking Dead has Deshaun Jackson on a bye week. Staunch Moderates has Trey Burton, Peyton Barber, who's non-existent, and the Bears defense. E-Walking Dead on injury. He's got Wallace on IR, Ingram out. Gronk questionable with the Thursday night game, which should be interesting. Staunch Moderates, he has Freeman questionable, Jones questionable, Watkins questionable, and Goodwin questionable. As I mentioned, looks like Freeman's going to play this week. Julio, he'll probably play. Watkins, I would take him out of my lineup this week. Don't think that it's worth putting him in there, not knowing what's going on. Watson will have a big game. Zeke will have a big game. White will have a big game. Mike Williams, he did not play very well last week. Everyone was expecting big things after the week prior. Tyler Boyd against the Dolphins looks like a pretty good matchup. And then E-Walking Dead on the other side. You got Brady against the Colts. He could hand the ball off a bunch because they're going to be up a lot. McCaffrey against the Giants looks like a good matchup. Lynch, he's been fine. Beckham, who knows what Eli's going to do. Keelan Cole hasn't looked great. Golden Tate had a big week last week. And then he has like 27 tight ends to choose from. So, if Gronk doesn't play, it's not a big deal. But I got staunch moderates here. I think they're going to take this one pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think at this point, at least this game, probably more so, the Thursday is really going to set the tone. There's some players going from each side, especially on E-Walking Dead, but also how James White's going to do if they're, like you said, going to hand it off more, how Sonny Michel's going to incorporate more into that offense, and if they're going to be playing up or if it's going to be even close to the game. But just going at first glance, the lineup, I definitely give the edge to staunch moderates. But just going through Walking Dead's lineup, it's definitely more than meets the eye. But for staunch moderates, he's definitely kind of come up with some decisions. And like we've seen previously, you might have a better team all around, but just picking the right players. And I think it might come down to him just picking the right guys with the best matchups. So I think I'm going to go ahead and agree with you and give staunch moderates the win here, but I think it'll be a close matchup.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see too close of a matchup. I just Thursday night, if you're throwing two guys out there, Thursday night games are always so weird, especially in a game where the Patriots should rout the team. You never know what's going to happen, and he has the Patriots defense too, so Luck could go out there and toss 3-4 touchdowns easily. It'll be.
What's that?
Huh? You interrupted me?
No, I was going to say. Yeah, I'm interrupting you. I'm going to go ahead and, if you don't think it's going to be a close game, I'll say a drink next week in Wisconsin if it's within 20 points.
If it's within 20 points, then a drink. All right, can you define drink? Are we talking a beer, shot, liquor, double whiskey? What are we doing here?
Winner's choice at the bar, wherever we have to meet to watch the Thursday game next week in Wisconsin.
All right, put it on the books. You all heard it. If this game is within 20 points, then J-Way Bella gets a drink from me. And if it is above 20 points, I get a drink from him. In the books, everyone.
Sure.
I'm 0-1 right now, and Staunch Moderates screwed me last week, so you should start thinking about your drink now.
Well, it might be a Miller Lite. We'll see.
I mean, that'd be perfect. Also, I actually have the wedding invitation right here. I'm very excited for my steak and shrimp for the wedding. Can't wait for that.
Wow.
Yeah, power move, I know. Following up, we got Shooter Stab against Built for the Future. Shooter Stab, no one on a bye. Built for Future, Tariq Cohen, Amari Cooper, and Mike Evans. Injury report, Shooter Stab, Landry, Fitz, Vinatieri questionable. Has to go out there and get a kicker. It looks like Vinatieri won't play. Built for the Future, Adams, Jeffrey, Beretta, Collins, Miller, all questionable. You take the lead on this one. What do you got?
All right, sure. I'll start with Built for the Future. So, some of my reading, I go through all the great NFL fantasy insiders that they have working and getting paid millions. One of them said that Matt Ryan was going to have a big game against Pittsburgh.
Wow. That's analysis right there.
We'll see how it happens. He could have a good game. It's definitely in the works, especially with how tough Pittsburgh has been playing on D, as far as tougher than they have been playing well at all. So Matty Ryan could have a good game there. Like I said, this team kind of lives off of the big playability of Todd Gurley, and then filling in the gaps in between. He's got some depth on his team, but it's all about, again, starting the right guys. Is he going to go with Connor, Ajay, Breida, who's questionable, as you said, Collins, who's been a little bit of a disappointment, had some issues on the goal line, or Lamar Miller against Dallas? It could potential. I mean, Miller hasn't had that great of a season so far, but always in the mix there. And always in everyone's favorite, Amari Cooper. Is he going to have a high game or a low game against the Chargers? Probably. It could be either way. Definitely. So Ertz, you're going to always get steady production, even against Minnesota, who hasn't been playing too well. And the Rams at Seattle is definitely probably going to give him some double-digit points, or at least close to it. Moving over to Shooter Stab, Breeze at Washington. Washington's kind of been a little bit of a surprise in that sense. I personally haven't seen a lot of their games, but I think it could be a good matchup for Breeze. David Johnson is kind of returning to a little bit of his form. They've given the ball over 20 times last week, and he definitely did what he could with it. I think as we're going to hopefully discuss later, I think that's going to be a check mark in the Arizona's box, but we'll talk about that later. Lindsey, he's just been getting that production. He's been elusive to the tackles, been putting up points. AJ Green, always going to be big threat ability. And I'm going to go ahead and Jared Cook looking to build off of last week. So I'm going to go with Shooter Stab on this one.
Wow. Okay, Shooter Stab here. Interesting. So looking at these two teams, I got Matt Ryan. He has to have a big game because the Steelers' defense is terrible, and the Steelers are going to put points up. So they're going to be throwing the ball. Ajay, against the Vikings, I don't think he's 100% still. He looks okay. Connor, he'll have a fine game against the Falcons. I think he finds the end zone this week, which will make him fantasy relevant. Gurley's going to put up over 20 points per usual. Adams could be essentially the only starting receiver for the Packers, who have Geronimo Allison concussion protocol and Randall Cobb, who's still hurt. So he could have a big game. Lions defense isn't particularly scary. Jeffrey had a huge game last week. Going against the Vikings should be interesting. Ernst, if you're going to hurt the Vikings, it's at the tight end spot. He's been playing great. He's going to continue to play great. Rams defense against the Seahawks, I like them as well. On the other side, Redskins defense hasn't been that bad. They've actually been pretty decent, especially their front seven. Secondary has been iffy, so Breeze could have a good day, but Giants secondary isn't all that good, and he couldn't do anything against them. David Johnson, he'll have a good game. Lindsey, he's been good. It's a three-headed backfield. Booker is taking away snaps, even though he's not getting the ball. He's in there to block a bunch. So it depends what he does with his minimal production. Landry will play. Not a big fan of Stills. Cook's not going to get 2 touchdowns again. You're gonna have to get a kicker. Vino's out. Seattle's defense against the Rams could get you negative points. And then just looking at the bench, there's not much there. I mean, you put Cam Newton in against the Giants. I would do that. But then McCoy's in a terrible offense. Morris, Murray, Eckler, they're not even starters on their team. Fitz, Anderson, Funchess. I would start Woods also. I'd put Woods in against Stills. With those guys in, I think it would make it a much closer matchup. But I got built for the future winning here.
No, I mean, you definitely have your reasons for sure. I think that there's just some explosive playability on Shooter Stab's lineup as well to probably match that or maybe get the edge. For some reason, coming off the bye, I'm not a big fan of him, but I think Funchess might have a big day against the Giants. And like you said, Robert Woods definitely in there in Seattle. They got basically 3 top and wide receiver 2s on that team right now that have the ability to put up 20-plus points a week. But, I definitely can see you going with both for the future. But I'm going to say Shooter Stab.
Yeah, and I absolutely get it. You got the home run ability on Shooter Stab. I think you have more of a high floor for Built to the Future. But you also have Gurley out there who's going to put up big numbers. You got Ernst, who he could easily score 2 touchdowns. Matty Ryan could throw 5 touchdowns. So they have big playability too. I just think Shooter Stab has a much lower floor. And, for gambling reasons, I go for Built for the Future here.
No, that's fine. You have to tell your opinion, how long it may be.
It's 100%
but we'll move on.
Yeah, we will move on. And the matchup we're moving on to is the only matchup of the week where there are no buys. J-Way Bella versus Johnny, I want to score more. Injury report, you, my friend, J-Way Bella, Marlon Mack has been announced out for Thursday night. Foreman is on IR. You got Fuller, Carson, Clement, Callaway, questionable. On the other side, you got Doyle out. You got Rodgers questionable, who he's going to play. And then you got Cook, who's questionable. So I'm going to dive into it. We got Kirk Cousins, who, even though he really hasn't been good this year for fantasy perspectives, he's had a good season. Eagles' defense has been pretty good. Nothing great, right in the middle of the pack. Melvin Gordon against the Raiders should have a good game. Carlos Hyde against the Ravens, that could be a make-or-break game for you. Cooks should have a good game against Seattle. Will Fuller, this is just opinion-wise, I don't think he plays. If you put John Brown in there, I think that would work. But I think Derrick Henry finds his role this week against the Bills. I think he's going to have a big week. Just saying that. Thielen against the Eagles. Thielen's just been a beast. Kelsey, he's awesome. Good defenses. They always tend to give up points to tight ends. Chargers defense hasn't been as good as advertised. They got a lot of injuries. So even though they're going against the Raiders, I don't think you'll get too many points there. On the other side of the ball, you got Rodgers. he's fine. He's not doing what he could be doing, what we thought he would be doing because of that injury. Buck Allen, just not an ideal start. Might go Ingram there. We'll see. Barkley against the Panthers. He's putting up good fantasy points. He's having pretty decent games. I'd like to see a couple more nice runs out of him personally. Hopkins gets an uptick if Fuller goes out. Marvin Jones could be good, could be okay. Calvin Ridley, he's been hot, but Jones is still PPR points-wise higher than him. Red Ellison, I mean, he did have some catches last week, but he's not going to win you a game. Then you got the other guys on the bench. Like I said, you can put Ingram in the lineup. If you want to put Edelman in there, that's fine. But, when all's said and done, I think it works out for J-Way Bella here, and they get the win. One more injury on that team, though, and the whole thing could crumble.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. For me at least, on my side of the table, it's just going to be really that questionable Fuller. He's going to be at 100%, although he's played at not 100% and still put up production, so that's always kind of tough, but it's definitely easier when you have like a John Brown. He's put up consistent points the last few weeks to plug in the case that he's not going to be able to go. Just going against Johnny, I want to score more. Rodgers, he's as poorly as he's been, which is still not that bad, but as poorly as for Rodgers, he's always, especially in a division matchup against Detroit, even if it's away, it's hard to bet against them. But just having like somebody like Javoris Allen as your second running back, or you don't know what you're going to get out of Marvin Jones or even Red Ellison. You've got some big playmakers with Ridley and Hopkins, obviously. Barkley, like you said, I hope he gets the ball too, just as a Giant fan, but playing against them, he's going to get, especially in a PPR league, he's going to put up points. I hate to go against my Cleveland Browns defense, as my AFC team, the Cleveland Browns.
Biggest Browns
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give myself the nod on this one.
Oh, wow. That's probably the most surprising thing we've heard all night. Not one person that has come on the podcast has gone against themselves, which if they did, then they shouldn't be in this league. So it's good to know.
Didn't you put $100 down before the league on yourself to win, and it's going to pay out like 60 to 1 odds or something like that?
Yeah, I tried to, but for some reason my bookie didn't know what Classics Dynasty League was. So, I mean...
Yeah, I tried looking for it at the book in Jersey at Monmouth Park, but they don't have it yet. So,
yeah, I mean, these places are ridiculous. Next time I'll just have to fly out to Vegas, I guess.
There you go, yeah, where the big money is.
All right. What everybody's been waiting for, game of the week. Silverback Nation versus Right Hand of Destruction. On bye, we have... Jordan Howard for Silverback Nation, Allen Robinson for Right Hand of Destruction. Injury-wise, we have Hilton listed as out and Graham listed as questionable for Silverback Nation. Right Hand of Destruction, we have Eifert with only one ankle left on his body out. And Geronimo Allison, Sterling Shepard popped up questionable, Adrian Peterson, and Josh Gordon questionable. Why don't you take this and I'll take it home?
Sure, I'll start with the old right hand of destruction. We'll start, Wentz starting off, he's has injured the first couple of games, trying to start finding his rhythm. Minnesota's been banged up. Their defense hasn't played as well as everyone anticipated, and I believe they're home, so it definitely works in favor of him. I think he's going to have a pretty productive day. Hunt, even against Jacksonville, he gets the volume where he could put up numbers always. It'd be interesting to see if you're going to go and continue with Smallwood with the Giants.
I'm not going to. You really think I'm going to stick with Smallwood? Come on, you're better than that.
Yeah. Sanders is prone to probably have a big game and probably one of your better players, and hopefully you're going to get some big production out of him against the Jets. Sterling Shepard could be your X factor. We've seen him make some big plays and have some big weeks. And depending, like you said, about OBJ, same thing about how we're going to get from Eli, how the line's going to hold up, and how the Giants are going to play in overall. Will dictate, how he gets his points and if he gets any. Interesting to see how off the bye week what you're going to do with your Washington running backs. If they're going to throw Adrian Peterson back in there, and then we have the questionable tag, or if we're going to start Josh Gordon in a every league anticipated Josh Gordon situation. So it seems like. For the most part, you got the guys that you want, but a couple plug and plays in there, depending on injuries and that thing, or just some Haley hunches towards the end of the week. Going on to Silverback Nation, Jordan Howard couldn't come at a worse time to have a bye week. I know that he didn't put any points much on the board last week, but just going back from what last week on Silverback Nation, their really running back play has been the plague of their season so far. You have Kerryon Johnson, who's going against Green Bay, who absolutely killed the Bills last week. I know the Bills are not the Lions, but at the same time, you don't know how that's going to work out for Kerryon, especially against a divisional rival with a defense like that. Their defenses for Silverback Nation might have to be the guys to put up some big points this week. Hopefully, like I said, Juju puts up better numbers than he did, and with T.Y. Hilton being out, you might have to rely on a less than 100% Doug Baldwin to fill up that gap. So as much as it pains me, I'm going to have to go ahead and give the right hand of destruction on this one.
Wow, the first guest on the podcast to go with the right hand of destruction. I love it. So yes, I haven't set my lineup yet because I would be a fucking moron to start Wendell Smallwood this week. Carson Wentz or Alex Smith, still don't know there. I'll probably go with Alex Smith. Just honestly, I know the Vikings haven't had a great defensive performance, but New Orleans has been pretty bad. Alex Smith has looked decent. Kareem Hunt, it was great to see him get involved in the pass game more last week. He got 5 targets. He also had a 5th catch taken away from a holding penalty. Then Chris Thompson's going to definitely get the bump in. Emmanuel Sanders, Sterling Shepard, Geronimo Allison. It'll be interesting what I do with that spot. It's going to be either him, Adrian Peterson, or Josh Gordon. Njoku, he had some catches last week. Love to see him get in the end zone this week against the Ravens. Lutz has been killing it. Denver gets Sammy California. That's good for at least 1 interception there. On the other side, Luck against the Patriots. Thursday night game in Foxborough. He's going to be throwing. The only good thing for me is that means interceptions because he has not held on to the ball very well. Kenyon Drake, as we've mentioned, hasn't had a good year. Kerryon Johnson will be put in the starting lineup. I'm almost certain of it. He'll be fine against the Packers. Keenan Allen against the Raiders. He gets a very good matchup. T.Y. Hilton out. So I'm assuming you're going to go Doug Baldwin there. I don't know who else Silverback Nation will put in. Juju will have a week. Jimmy Graham, you don't know what you're going to get from him. And Jacksonville against the Chiefs is going to be tough. I mean, I think it's easy. Right-handed destruction gets a W here. Starts to build on a streak. Getting his way towards a streak.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean...
Is that a first ever win streak for right-handed destruction?
Well, I don't consider 2 a win streak. You got to get to 3 before it's a streak. So...
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
We'll see next week if that's going to be going for the first streak of the right-handed destruction career.
Exactly. But hey, we play 1 week at a time. At the end of the week, we just want to be 1-0. We want to be 1-0. All right, so went through the recap, went through the predictions. the final thing to go through are hot takes for the week. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll start it off.
All right, go for it.
So hot take number one is I believe that the Cardinals are going to get their first win over the 49ers, and I think DJ is going to go and get 2 touchdowns. I think this is going to be the game for DJ to come back into his form. The Niners have looked pretty good, especially on defense, but I think the Cardinals, being an 0-4 team, are really going to come out on fire to revenge that behind their rookie quarterback. And I think they're going to lean heavily on DJ. He's going to get at least 2 touchdowns during this game. My second hot take here is I'm going to go with my Browns over the Ravens. I think the Brownies are hungry. I think they could potentially have 2 to 3 more wins than they have now, and I think Baker Mayfield's gonna have a day even against a good Ravens defense. I think the Browns are going to come out and are going to take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that as too much of a hot take. I mean, I think the Browns are a good team now. I hate Joe Flacco, so I'm never going to be a fan of the Ravens. So I'm on board with you there. And then with your first hot take, I could see that happening. Do you think Josh Rosen throws for over 200 yards as well?
I think he. You know what? I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with under on that one.
Okay.
Even with him performing relatively well, I really think that the run game is going to be the crux of that offense. And I know you weren't too hot on my take, so I'll throw another one out there.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Jets over the Broncos.
Oh wow!
Jets over the Broncos.
That's a hot take.
Darnold is going to have himself a rebound game and go for over 300 yards.
Wow! Now that's a hot take. Sammy Darnold getting a W and over 300 yards. Okay. So my 2 hot takes. It's about your team. I think Derrick Henry finds his confidence and the end zone twice in a Titans victory over the Bills. It's a team he wants to see right now. They want to get him more involved. They've had a lot of injuries, so I think that this is his week to either they're going to him, and if he doesn't do anything, they're going to Dion Lewis a lot more. But I think he goes in there, finds the end zone twice, comes close to 100 yards, has a great game. And my other hot take is the Giants actually get multiple sacks in a game. They get 4 sacks this week and an interception in a low-scoring 17-14 win.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? With I don't know if Vernon has been in the works of coming back. I'm not sure if he is going to play. I'm getting a nod from one of my producers. But I think that Vernon coming back and the Giants, they're just one of those organizations that they listen to the fans and they hear about all the energy coming from the fans and around in New York. And I think the Panthers are going to be one of those games that really bounce back. Defense has been playing relatively well. And hopefully the offense can kind of get a group going where the defense can take over. So, I can definitely see it, especially as a Giant fan myself.
Yeah, big.
If I had the chance to do it over again, I'd do it in the room for idiots, then you lose again.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Are you there?
Yeah. I thought Matt was talking on the podcast.
No, he's in the background chatter. It's he's between the glass.
Okay. I was just gonna say, game's gonna be down here in Charlotte. There's a lot of Giants fans down here, so there's gonna be it's gonna be about a 50-50 split if I had to guess. So it's gonna be a good game for the Giants, hopefully. Good game for everybody fantasy wise. Next week we were thinking about doing a live podcast from Milwaukee. Unfortunately, I don't think the timeline will work out. Next owner that would like to be on the podcast, we typically go on Wednesday nights. Please reach out to me. Jay, Susie, J-Way, whatever it is you're called.
Yeah, actually, I hate to cut you off there, but I actually wanted to throw my commissioner hat on for a little bit and have a little bit of rebuttal from the comments of previous podcasts for just a couple more minutes of your time.
Just one more thing. You're not the commissioner.
Well, I'm sorry. As a co-commissioner, cap on.
No. Vice.
All right. Vice, co, same thing.
Nope.
So,
Vice is less.
Well, either way, whatever way you want to call it, there was some reports by one of the public comments made on this podcast by a couple of the owners. I don't have to point any fingers, but there's been some call out on how to move forward in the league and what we're doing. I just want to assure that myself and my co-commissioner Kyle are doing everything we can. A couple of things. We got some ideas in the works. There was some ideas going around last week with the Imperial League and defensive 2 points on fourth down stops and all this stuff, which is good. We want these ideas. We want owners to come up with these ideas. That's why we have these polls. That's why we have things like you're doing to try to get the voice out there. But what we have to remember is that we take care of what our league is now, week by week, and how it's going. Some of the things that I want to do is host a town hall meeting, possibly upcoming in the next couple of weeks, halfway through the season, to see what everybody feels, how the new rules are. There was some big polls made over in the off season about the rule changes and moving forward. So I want to see people's opinions on that. I've heard some mixed things. So as my producer's telling me, there's only 2 matches that have been decided by PPR. But as we've seen, there's been a high influx of the points. But as these ideas are great, and we want them to move forward. But we also have to make sure we spell out all the details correctly. There's been some controversy on the league on how things should be, how the polls were understood by the commissioners and the owners themselves, the people who proposed them. So moving forward on polls, we want to make sure we edit out and hatch out all the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why, and how it affects everything, and all the details of it, so there's not any confusion. So I want to assure that to all the owners that may be listening, that we're listening to you, but we're also we're taking it one step at a time, 1 week at a time, and 1 season at a time. And I know that there's people have a good ideas, which we want to see, but like I said, there's a time and place, and exercise your voting privileges to voice your opinions as well. We want to see the turnout keep going, and I think we're at a good spot in our league as we had a third party come in and evaluate that each one of our teams is almost as close to the next one up on a scale of 1 to 10. There's a very small margin of gap between each team, as you can see. And moving forward, we believe that we always have the commissioner team has the owners' best interest in mind, and we'll move on from there. So we're open to suggestions, but we also want to construe that these things take time, and moving in too fast might be a wrong as well. So we appreciate, like I said, those opinions, but there's a time and place, and we'll keep going moving forward.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's another reason for the podcast. People come on, voice their opinions, let us know what they're thinking about the league. Possible destination draft next year. That could be fun. Throw that out there. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Thanks for voicing your opinion as well. Going against the other owner last week. You came back. You did a good job today, and you're working your way into that vice commissioner role.
Yeah, I definitely am just trying to make it good, make this league great. And I'm not here to make friends as much as I try to be friendly, but this is for the best of the league and the best of the owners. So the commissioner's team is doing the best we can, and we're moving forward.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, thank you for being on. I'll see you next week, and let's go Yanks.
All right, and get a Miller waiting for me when I win that bet.
We'll see about that, buddy.
All right, man. Let's go Yankees.